Citizen Talks is a podcast series brought to you by TRT World Citizen, featuring discussions with humanitarians and activists, artists, and changemakers, exploring the global humanitarian issues that shape our society and the world at large. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Citizen Talks. This is your host, Minkailu, and I am here today with Esports personality Jalloh Robson. She is a brand ambassador for Acer Africa and the founder of her own company, Enterland. Jalloh, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to have this chat with you.
Wonderful. So just to begin, can you tell some of our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do specifically?
So I think you covered the overarching ideas, which is I'm a brand ambassador to Ace Africa, which actually started a few years ago already. It ultimately encompasses me being already a gamer, Twitch streamer, content creator within the local space, and I have the opportunity to work with Acer, and they help me actually make that my job, which is video gaming ultimately in essence. And then with Enterland, I have a business where I host Bring Your Own Computer LAN events, which ultimately is, gamers bringing their own computer or console to a venue that I provide with internet, electricity, all the bells and whistles, and people bring their computers and we set up and play games for a weekend, non-stop gaming. It's something that really sparked gaming culture in South Africa, and it's something that I really wanted to bring back post-COVID. Wanted to get people gaming again, get people face-to-face, creating organic interactions, creating niche communities, and that's ultimately something that we're doing. So, yeah.
Nice. So I'm curious because I know from the American context, but I'm not so well-versed in the global sort of aspects of it. What's like the nature of the gaming market, industry players, etc., in South Africa specifically? Is this a big thing? Is it a recent thing? Is it kind of emerging?
I think for people that are in the scene, it's a big thing.
Okay.
But I also think for people that don't really interact with the gaming space, it can be quite niche and foreign. I think we still in South Africa have the issues predominantly with internet connectivity. We are obviously geographically located quite far away from the hub of esports, which is ultimately Europe. So the best latency that we can get is 160 ms, which is not competable. So our esports scene in particular is at quite a big disadvantage because they physically have to compete in a different country to actually just level the playing ground.
Okay.
That hasn't stopped us though. We have multiple players playing for big international orgs, specifically in Complexity and Ninjas in Pajamas, are two Counter-Strike players and a coach as well, TC, I mustn't forget him. And then we have a few players that pop up here and there in different genres and niches. We do very well in FIFA and also in Tekken. So we have people everywhere. They pop up, they do amazing things. And then, our scene locally at home sort of invigorates itself a little bit. And then sometimes it dies down. So we're currently in that space at the moment where we're not 100% flourishing. And I think the reason for that is purely just, another big issue that we have other than internet and just being geographically inept is that our country has scheduled power outages. That's a really big issue when it comes to hosting esports and gaming tournaments. We physically can't do that without power. So again, something that I try and do with Enterland is provide venues that have consistent access to both of those elements, and having that accessibility be available to everybody that attends Enterland events, whether that be online or offline. So yeah, we have some hurdles, but we have a big content creator scene. We do cool stuff. We have Comic-Con. We have Rage Expo. We have some really cool events that's happening. We have some cool tournament organizers, and yeah, I think we're there. We just need to be a little bit, even further than, maybe a little bit more flamboyant, in my opinion.
So I want to ask actually, how did you specifically get into esports? How did you decide that this was the thing for you? What was the appeal that initially brought you into it?
I think I'd have to throw it all the way back to being in my teens. My younger brother, he's 4 years younger than me, was really into IT, maths. He loved gaming from a young age. It was something he was drawn to, technology and PCs, and so eventually he had his own, and I was like, if you can do it, I can do it, the older sister energy. And so it turned out that us playing games together was probably one of the only times that we did not fight, and we started really enjoying that. And we realized that we're actually playing games that people play every last weekend of the month for the whole year in this massive hall in Cape Town called the Belleville Velodrome, where 1,000 gamers would bring their computers to an event. So it was a BYOC LAN.
Okay.
And people would bring their own computers. We'd set up on trestle tables and plastic chairs, connect to each other. There was no internet in the venue. And we would just play games together. And it was the most amazing weekend. I was just absolutely just so ecstatic. I was a little social butterfly as well, so seeing so many humans that are my age and that's playing video games, I was like, this is dope, this is heaven, this is cool, I'm interested. And I played online, and I went to university. I studied 2 years of dentistry and had the opportunity halfway to drop my stuff and become a Twitch streamer and a brand ambassador. And I was like, this is really cool. I'm into this. I'm probably not going to make any money off of doing this, but I'm way more passionate about this than dentistry. So I'm just going to do it. So I went to Taiwan. I saw a few different countries, and it really opened my eyes to the business of esports. And that's something that drew me into it. It's seeing that there were people that were not just passionate about it, but had businesses in esports that was flourishing and doing cool stuff. And I think I've always had a bit of an entrepreneurial mindset to things. Like, if I understand the structures and I know, how to form the basics of a business, and then it's basically about plugging in the passion and finding the demand and making sure that you're just, constantly fueling the marketing machine and making sure that you're moving into the right directions. And I started learning so much over those 6 years of being in the business of esports locally, combined with my international travels, that I was really interested in seeing it through. I was doing multiple different things, multiple different genres of video gaming. I attended events. I started understanding how to host B2B events. I was a brand ambassador, so I did a lot of public speaking. So I really touched in multiple different facets of esports. And I'm still not 100% settled. I think now that I own Interlan and I know that that's 100% my passion, getting other people to enjoy LAN events as much as I did, and hopefully igniting this little flame in the gaming scene locally, is really what I want to see. Really us taking it into our own hands, the community saying this is ours. I want to run with this. I want to host a tournament. I want to put a prize pool on it. I want to find the best person. I want to highlight them. I want to talk about it, create stories, Twitch stream, all of those things. That's where I want to play. And I've settled in that space now where I really want to see it through. I really want to push it as far as I can. So I guess it started from LANing, and it's still with LANing.
Okay. Everything comes full circle in life, So touching on some of the things that you just mentioned, relatively speaking, esports and, gaming and the players and the audience, it's a relatively, generally speaking, it's a relatively new phenomenon. So would you say that there's kind of any unique opportunities that exist in this sector for historically marginalized communities, minorities or economically depressed communities, women, this kind of thing?
100%.
Okay.
Especially in South Africa right now, we are seeing so many, I can't even say it's minorities necessarily, because the communities that back these creators coming completely out of nowhere. I've never met them before. I've never seen them at events before. And their Twitch communities are amazing and vibrant, and their Discord communities are engaging and exciting and starting up their new niches and doing their own fun things and coming up with new things that work for them. It's not at all the cookie cutter experience that you would imagine from a much larger community of, Twitch streamers, gamers, content creators, such as America. I mean, there's just so many gaming spaces in America.
Oh, yeah.
And in comparison, we are an absolute baby. So I think it's amazing to see that, it doesn't really matter where you're from, gender, nationality. It's not really the case. It's more about the energy that you bring and the passion that you have for gaming, and sharing that with, a community of people that feel the same way. Naturally, you will connect. And I feel like that's such a exciting space to be in, for it not to be so, I guess, difficult to have that barrier for entry. I think we're still struggling quite a lot with access to hardware. Obviously, the economy in South Africa is not as great, so getting the best gear and, the newest tech upgrades and being involved in all the international events, that's really where we fall flat. But I think that within the communities, we're seeing so much excitement. And I think it's just a matter of just chugging along and just keeping on, stay with the times, constantly try and reinvent yourself. I think I've been through 6 different brand identities at this point already. No. So you just have to constantly be updated as to sort of what's happening and how you can adapt it to yourself. And you will find a way to push, a new space, a new community, a new niche. And I think that's amazing to still be able to do.
Very cool. Very cool. So specifically as a woman, have you found, because you talk about gaming and stuff and such, it's obviously considered a traditionally sort of male thing. Obviously that's not the case necessarily anymore, but have you encountered, do you think, any specific difficulties as a woman in the sector?
I think sometimes it's difficult to be taken seriously, especially at the start of it. I think you'd still see it in international, local scenes very much so. You would see that women aren't necessarily at the top of the leaderboards across the board when it comes to esports. And I think because of that skill gap that we already have, I mean, as you mentioned, traditionally speaking, gaming, going as far back as TV games and arcade rooms has been, majority male dominated. But we're seeing audiences on Twitch, in demographics on different gaming platforms, even on YouTube, consumers of gaming content, it being a lot more 50-50 these days. So I don't think it's a lack of representation, absolutely not. I think that we're still getting to the point where women have as much experience and as much drive to get into certain esports genres and titles and really start going for those front-running spaces. I mean, it's very similar to if you look at traditional sports. With today's day and age, technology and science, we're seeing a lot of women crushing world records, marathons, triathlons, Ironmans. They're just absolute powerhouses. And I think in esports, we're going to be getting to that space a little bit later because it's a newer industry. And I think we're still yet to see, really like an overwhelming domination of, women in esports titles. I don't think we're there yet. But it's not a bad thing. It's not something to be like, we need to fix this. Like, it's not like, let's just keep going. We're already on track. We already see amazing female players. And for example, the G2 team, I don't know if you know G2 Esports, but as an organization, they have a female team that has been historically extremely dominant in whatever FPS title they play. And I mean, just when I met them in person, I was like, you girls just get it. They don't think, that they're female and they're at a disadvantage. It's 100% aim, play, prac, play, scrim, play. Like, the mentality is 100% the same as the male teams, and there's no doubt about it. And I'm fortunate to have been accepted into that male-dominated esports leagues very early on because I strong-armed my way in there. It might have been the Afrikaans in me, thinking, if I can play touch rugby, which is also a male thing, and I was a captain of an all-female team for that in high school, and I was like, I can play esports, it's the same thing. And it's like, if you guys can do it, I can do it better if I just prac hard enough. It's not a matter of I'm female, you male. It's just I need to physically put in the time, and I could possibly prove myself. And I did a little bit of that. I don't think that I've spent enough time, but I think we're still seeing that era coming to light where women really start dominating, specifically in esports. I think when it comes to content creation, different story. I think we already have a little bit of a advantage. Being female, naturally you have a male audience that's interested in watching your content purely because you're the opposite sex and you're talking about something about the male audience is interested in.
Yeah,
so
I imagine
we
gaming
have to
adds a whole other layer of appeal there.
We have to also be honest about that fact. But I also think that there's various other factors when it comes in. Like I said, you don't necessarily always get taken seriously, at least for the first while, until you really prove like, listen, I am gaming. I've been a gamer. I know what I'm talking about. I can build a PC from scratch. I know what I'm saying. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. Let me coach you. Like when you have that mentality, when you're like really in there and you're like just wholeheartedly backing yourself, there's really nothing holding you back.
Very cool. Nice. Winners win,
Yeah.
So there you go. So I want to actually get more specifically into your work with Acer Africa. I understand that there is a education program, Acer for Education Initiative. Can you tell us a little bit about that, some of the work you've done? I believe it's something with schools and this kind of thing, yes?
Correct, yeah. So I can speak about the most recent event that we did because it's honestly so exciting to me.
Please.
So Acer for Education is a, I guess, social cause within the Acer Africa group. And it's something that they've been working on for years now. They obviously have access to all this amazing tech, and especially their gaming range, Nitro and Predator. Both of these two types of products have a really exciting price point, especially for the local market. So the Nitro units are something that, you can even offer to high schoolers because it's in a really decent price range. But it's a gaming laptop. It's, it's really nice graphics, really fast CPU, fantastic memory. Like it just really runs amazingly. And then you have your Predator gaming notebooks, which is your top of the range, which is where you are maybe a young professional, someone that's maybe interested in graphic design, game design, some sort of digital art, coding, developing, these are where these products like really, really shine because they have the processing power to, match up to your average desktop, which is amazing because you can take it to school, you can take it to work, you can travel with it, which is what I do. I have it at the hotel room ready for some gaming tonight.
You can go back and play.
100%,
okay.
yeah. So
you live this. It's not just it's a lifestyle.
Exactly. So I think what Acer for Education really helps do is, I guess, fast track the idea of, higher tech in schools and access to those types of products, with the added benefit of it, featuring esports. It's not always the main focus. Often it's AI, robotics, mathematics, physics, all of these types of spaces. Even medical, these laptops get used for fantastic X-ray software as well. It's really, really cool. I did a session where they took one of these Predator laptops and used them in an X-ray machine to X-ray a rhino. It was really cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like wildlife X-ray.
There's so few left
Very
too.
cool.
They got the
well, in South Africa we got a few.
Oh yeah.
So it's just really cool stuff. And ultimately what it comes down to is they entice, students with esports and this type of fast pace, camaraderie, teamwork in your more traditional FPS and MMO, RPG type games, courses to help learners get into these spaces and understand it, but with structure and with understanding of the space, and really giving them the tools that they need to say, okay, you're really passionate about Overwatch, but what does that mean for you? Can you really actually build a career off of this? Would you be more suited to be a shoutcaster? Are you interested in going into production? Could this be an opportunity to introduce you to a STEM career? Through video gaming, that sort of opens your eyes up to, what technology can do with video gaming. And then from that, you move into a space in science, technology, all of these different spaces, engineering and math. And I think what we most recently did with Curo, which is a schools group in South Africa, with Acer for Africa, or rather Acer for Education, we hosted an Indaba where we hosted 175 teachers from all of the different Curo schools in the country. And we ultimately taught them how to play video games. We got them in Valorant, we got them in Overwatch, we got them in Rocket League. We wanted them to understand why their students are interested in these games and what they needed to, the lingo that they needed to understand, the dexterity that they needed to test themselves and be like, wow, this is really difficult. For a student that this comes naturally, what does that mean? Could they move into robotics? Are they naturally inclined to understand certain types of physics or mathematical degrees? This is the spaces that I find really interesting. And it's also very exciting to see two teams of, 10 teachers in total facing off against each other with their gaming names on their back and just learning about video gaming. It was such an exciting experience to see them go like, wow, this is so exciting and so exhilarating. Like, I'm going to go try this at home and be like, see, this is what your students are doing. Now you're getting it.
Okay.
And they also learned how to host their own tournaments. They understand structures, they understand rules, they understand brackets, they understand the physical connectivity elements that you need for hosting a LAN at the school, how to actually tech support themselves, tech support them students, and just an all-round education of everything higher tech, gaming and esports. And I think that's such an exciting thing to offer for the educational section, especially for a generation that might have been, one too late to understand just the extreme vastness of esports globally. So, yeah.
There's an aspect of this that I find kind of interesting where I feel like there's a unique opportunity for sort of economic equalization within the gaming sector. I remember, I think it was like 3 years ago, there was a game called Axie Infinity, which was like a play-to-earn game type of thing, I think blockchain-based or whatever. But it was like a phenomenon in the Philippines, so much so, like people were playing this and earning like a living wage to play this game. And it was so much so that I remember the government of the Philippines had to release a statement telling people like, hey, listen, if you're making income off of Axie Infinity, you still have to pay your taxes,
Yeah.
When the money gets involved, then, there's something's big,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, that's very interesting. These people are like earning a living wage off of this. That's kind of crazy. But, how do you see the industry, everything that becomes a big business eventually kind of these days, you see it become stratified, right? There's haves and have-nots. So right now, you're developing an entirely new economic sector. How do you see this kind of developing while avoiding the kind of historical inequalities that we typically see in any kind of business? Is it already going that direction? Is there already like a big stratification between different groups? Or do you think, this is an opportunity, this is a place where we can sort of level the playing field across, like the wealth gap, we can cut that out kind of thing?
I think it's a difficult one to answer because specifically the game that you're talking about and the instance that you're talking about, as you mentioned, is blockchain based.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not too clued up on that space, especially in the whole crypto world. I think, we've had some stories of things going fantastically well and then fantastically not.
Right.
So it's also, I would question, what is actually required from the people to happen to earn that living wage and who is on the top of that. Because that's kind of when you start thinking there needs to be structure to this. It needs
Right.
to be open. It needs to be understood society-wide for it to actually be beneficial, you know. Otherwise, there is just still so many question marks, and I think in our current day and age, we're still learning so much about even just social media platforms.
All right.
And I think we're in a very exciting space because technology is progressing so fast, and societies across the world, various different cultures, is all getting super involved with technology. We're way more online than what we used to be even just a decade ago, and I guess that accelerates us connecting with each other across the world and accelerates growth in various many different sectors. So I think there's always benefit to it, right? But as with everything, too much of a good thing can also sometimes, end up being a little bit of a bad thing. And that's kind of where I'm, hesitating giving my full opinion because I just don't know enough. But when I see in our local space, you mentioned the word opportunity, and that kind of stuck with me because I feel like, especially in South Africa, we don't necessarily have, a federation or a governing body that really manages all, gaming and esports related spaces. I mean, we've tried, but it's not been very equal. It's not been very, open to anybody to enter. It's not been very fair. And I think that we're still a while off finding the right ways of approaching new and exceedingly vastly accelerating industries. And like, how do we manage that with, people that really do need the opportunity versus people that are opportunistic? And I think we're still trying to figure that out. I think everywhere in the world there's going to be opportunists, right? And they can easily ruin things too. But if there's an opportunity to be had, power to the person that takes that. So it's a difficult one for me to fully feel comfortable answering because I just don't know enough about the global world and all these various blockchains and even AI and the algorithms and social media platforms. There's just too much to delve into, and if you really delve into it, it can also make you go a little bit like, whoa, what are we doing here?
It's gonna be a lot more even as the years progress, I can promise you that.
Exactly. But I do want to encourage people that aren't video gaming specifically at their leisure for an entertainment or even if it's just an outlet, whether that be creative, social, because a lot of people also benefit from that social interaction, finding people that are like-minded, connecting over something that is, fun and lighthearted. And again, online, you also have to be considerate of the other, elements of it, which could be a very negative social interaction or a very negative, interaction with video gaming in general if you get too involved in it and you can't pull yourself away from it. I mean, there's all these types of elements to consider. So it's a little bit of a yin and yang type thing for me. When I get tired, I get up and I walk away. I go to gym. I do my thing. I've done this for long enough to understand when I'm tired. But
actually, I want to kind of maybe delve into that a little bit more right now, which, we have we're in this increasingly online digital society. We have people that are, I feel like, more and more being alienated, isolated from the others around them. And, how do you see this as a drawback in the gaming sector? Do you feel like you're meeting a lot of people who are maybe it's causing a crisis for them? They're having sort of maybe psychological, mental health sort of issues from this kind of thing. Is that a
100%?
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
I even had this exact emotion less than a year ago. I said to myself, oh, we got a muggie. That's what we call it in South Africa. It's a muggie.
Muggie?
Yeah.
Okay. Like a mosquito or a fly?
A little flying object that you can't identify.
There's so much cultural exchange happening today. I'm really
appreciating
appreciating
it. This is a muggie. All right, so yeah, I mean, I had that experience not too long ago where I had an emotion of, I guess, despair in video gaming. I wasn't enjoying it as much as I used to. I realized that I had very few friends that I actually consistently gamed with. And I felt alienated. I mean, I do this for a living. It's something I'm extremely passionate about. And I realized that from streaming for so many years, I have this in my head that I can't just sit down at my computer and enjoy a video game without thinking, oh, I need to create content from. I should probably go live. I should probably find someone in exciting to play this with so that I can, create more interaction, engagement, or, I should probably play with some people that, follow me so that they feel that I see them, because I do, and I care, and, and then I was like, why is this even a thing, and where are my friends?
That's like,
So,
something went wrong when you ask yourself that question.
Yeah, and that's when I had to really take a cold hard look at the types of games that I was playing and the reasons why I was playing it. And for the first time in my life, I picked up a single player game. Up until a year ago, I hadn't played a single player game at my own leisure ever, like ever, and that's insane, So I picked up Hogwarts, and initially it was to stream it, and I probably streamed it 3 times, and I realized that people don't really want me to play single player games because it's not really my thing. Like, I'm more of I get in there, play Counter-Strike, and it's very action packed and a lot of talking. And with Hogwarts, I was kind of so mellow, I almost forgot to talk. I was just ooh, this is fun, I'm interested.
No.
So I ended up spending up my evenings literally offline on all of my social platforms playing Hogwarts. And then I was like, okay, well, this is even worse now. I'm just playing Hogwarts. I want to speak to people. I want to have a social interaction. So I booted Counter-Strike back up again, and I refused to stream it for a while. I was like, okay, I'm going to set a personal goal for myself. I want to get to 18k elo in the next few months, just for the fun of it. I just want to invigorate the love for gaming back. And naturally, the people that I met in the lobbies, because I wasn't streaming, I was willing to actually speak on open mic and communicate. I met a bunch of cool people that whenever I'm on Discord and I'm in an open channel lobby, someone would pop in, hey, want to lobby up, want to play some CS? And I was like, yes, thank you for asking. Please come back tomorrow.
Cool.
And that's what it's really about,
Okay.
You do have to put yourself out there. And I think, especially now with being so increasingly online, to get back to your point, that's something that I feel extremely passionately about, and why going to a LAN is so important, because you can sit at home grinding a rank or playing, your MMORPG or playing your single player game. But if you don't put yourself out there and connect with the communities and actually put yourself in a Discord server and speak to the people and make personal connections, you're not gonna have friends. You're not gonna meet cool people. You're gonna meet most likely an angry person on the mic, and it's gonna ruin your day, and you're not gonna know what to do with yourself because you don't have another human being to offload that emotion onto. And that's also not fair, actually. You really need to find people that are your little tribe. Even if you switch between them often, it doesn't matter. Even if you don't even know their real names. I mean, I know a bunch of them. I don't know their real names. I don't even know what they look like. I know their gaming tags, and we're homies.
Yeah.
And that's what really matters. So going to a LAN, even if you rock up completely by yourself and you sit down with your PC and you boot up Quake 3. I mean, this happened at our last event. And someone walked past where did you get that game? Give me the game files. And the dude's like, yeah, I'll put it up a Google Drive, put it on Discord. Next minute, 25 people out of the 60-man LAN is playing competitive Quake 3,
Nice.
which is a game that came out decades ago.
Yeah, I remember that.
And people are loving it. And we put a little prize pool on it, completely ad hoc. And all of a sudden, you'll see, people from across the room, people that I know came to this LAN solo, sitting outside on the balcony, chatting, talking about anime, talking about, their favorite, events at Comic-Con, which is happening the same weekend, which is also a benefit to our event. That's what it's about. That, gaming and social media and all of it was meant to connect us more, not isolate us more. So when you feel that alienation, that isolation, that depression almost kicking in, and you're not doing it right.
Okay. You're
not doing it right,
Okay.
quite frankly.
If it feels wrong, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
There you go. So I think we're going to have to come to the end of our conversation here. But before we do so, do you have any final thoughts, comments, anything you want to share with our audience, where they can perhaps get in touch with you, find some of your material, your company, these kinds of things? Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, luckily my handle is quite simple. It's Julia, my name, Bish, Bish, from a Kendrick Lamar song, Money Trees.
I love that.
And Robson, my surname. So
Okay.
one word, all lowercase, Julia Bish Robson. And you can get me on Instagram. I'm most active. I stream on Twitch. I sometimes post announcements on Twitter. And then Interlan, enter like the button on your keyboard, and LAN. Is my website, interland.gg. That's where you can find all about our BYOC lands, and we have a bunch of events coming up this year still, and we hope to do even bigger, better events
Awesome.
from 2025. So yeah, and I think closing remarks, I just want to encourage people to try out a video game. I mean, you mentioned Fallout before we started this, and Fallout is now the series is now on Amazon Prime, and it's so well done.
Yeah, I saw a couple of it. It was good.
Highly recommend watching it.
Yeah.
It's gotten some really great reviews. Recently we watched someone play Star Citizen, and I was like, what? You're in your own spaceship and you're flying through space. You are landing on planets and you're doing it all yourself. Can I just what?
Yeah.
Like, this is what we can do in gaming these days. It's amazing. There's many different games like this. The list can go on. Like, if you're interested in, the more sort of Dungeons and Dragons style, type gaming, like, I would even recommend Baldur's Gate. There's so many options to go through, and I really just, start with something that you're interested in. If it's a TV series, a movie, something that you're interested in, I bet you there's a game about it. Find some stuff on Steam, look at, your locally developed games, support local and indie game developers. There's some really cool material out there, and just jump on a Twitch stream, see what the streamer is doing. They teach you so much just from playing the game, just from watching it. You already feel like you're a little bit more comfortable. When you jump into the game, it doesn't feel as foreign. You don't feel so far out of your comfort zone. And I think that's just it. Like, male, female, adult, child, it really doesn't matter where you're spaced. Just jump into a game, see what technology is bringing us today, and excite yourself in a different type of entertainment.
Wonderful. Julia, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. This has been a very enlightening conversation for me personally, so I hope that everyone else will gain as much from it as I have. But
thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. So thank you also for joining us, and we will see you next time on our next episode of Citizen Talks.